Hello everybody, I'm Tim Rickman and you're watching the video tutorial for my origami model Anchor. Before I start, to go over some paper choices, this model works well with printer paper, something about that thickness. It also works well with this kind of foil paper that you get in commercial origami packs. The ratio is going to be about 2 to 5. So if you have a piece of paper that's 10 inches tall, the model is going to be 4 inches tall. This is one that I made from a regular piece of printer paper. I folded this in about an hour. If you took your time with this, it would look a lot nicer. It would look something like this, which I folded from a 1 foot by 1 foot square of foil origami paper. See, the back looks different than the front. There's definitely a face to it. That's the pretty side. Alright, so let's start. At the beginning of the video, I gave you guys a crease pattern for the general placement of where all the flaps go. It's based on a 32 by 32 grid, so if you haven't already fold that, that's fairly easy, straightforward to fold rather. It's time consuming. Basically, you fold the paper in half, and then you fold each of those flaps in half, and then you fold each of those in half, and keep dividing up each column and row in halves until you get to a 32 by 32. So here's another look at the crease pattern for the basic arrangement of the flaps. You can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4 large flaps, and then 2 smaller flaps in the middle that form the crossbar. And this first diagonal is a good place to start. This flap, the center of it lies on the raw edge at the top, which is 9 spaces over. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to make sure we start on the right space. And you can either just fold diagonally through all of these, or you can begin all of the pleating, whichever you prefer. I think it's easier for the purposes of this tutorial just to fold a diagonal all the way to the edge. So you folded that corner down, this will be at a position of 9 also. Do the same thing on the other side. And then diagonals coming down from there also. And they're going to cross through the center of the origami. So they cross and then they extend through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 2 up from where that ended. And 2 on either side of that as well. Here's a look at it in the pencil. So it extends 5 spaces down, and then you go back up 2 and make another little X there. And then at the bottom, again, both the larger flaps both lie on this vertical column that's 9 spaces over from either side. But this one, instead of the point being on the raw edge, it's 8 spaces up from the bottom. So find this crease where these diagonals are meeting. The bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Another way to find that is to find this corner here, go 1 space in, and then start a diagonal from there. That's also going to reach that point, and then just carry this all the way through the vertical center of the model. There is a space on either side of direct center that's 2 spaces wide, so 1 space on either side. Sometimes in origami you'll hear that referred to as the altitude. So the altitude of this model, all the flaps exist at least 1 space away from the center. And that's to provide the center post for all of this. If it was 0, it would be flat, and that would be boring. We want it to have some width, so it looks sturdy like an anchor should. Alright, and then there's a couple ways to find the other horizontal. You can find your 9 spacing again from the top here and travel down, and where that crease crosses the diagonal you just made, just go at 90 degrees to your first diagonal and carry it to either edge of the paper. Or you'll notice that it extends. This is the center crease, and then it hits 1 to the side of that. So you could find the center, go 1 space to the left or right, and find this diagonal that way as well. All this is done freehand. This isn't a step-by-step model. A lot of modern origami is not step-by-step anymore. A lot of heavily box-pleated stuff is not. So you see what I'm talking about there. This is the center crease, and then each one of these diagonals start 1 space to the left or right of that on opposite sides. So. Okay, that's all the pre-creasing. Oh, hey. Yeah. As soon as Google cuts me my first check, I'm buying a new tripod. This tripod is for the birds. Alright. So what we start with is some pattern grafting for the crossbar. We're actually going to do these smaller spikes first. And we do that by, so here's where let me show you on the crease pattern. So they cross there, and 1 space out from where they cross, you're going to make a pleat. So just make 1 space to the left or the right of where they cross, a mountain fold, and then the space behind that, a valley fold. So you have a pleat. It'll look like that on the top and the bottom, coincidentally. So do that to either side, right? And then fold through all layers and do it going this way. So make a mountain fold through all layers right above where they cross, and a valley fold behind that, and the same thing beneath them, mountain fold, valley fold. Now we have sort of this awkward paper bunched up here, but this is going to describe where our set of flaps is going to come from next. We're going to slightly undo all of this now that we've trained our paper to go that way we want it to. Open it up and then fold the paper like this, position everything like this, then you're going to start to working along those diagonals. Collapse all of what we just made, like so. And it's going to give you something that looks like this. Okay. Let me show you that again on this paper. So on either side of where those smaller diagonal folds cross, make a mountain fold and then a valley fold beyond that. And then folding through all the layers of the paper, mountain fold above, valley fold above that. Mountain fold. Be real careful to fold all the layers together. You want to get a little bunched up behind the paper. Okay, so we've got paper looking like that. Undo everything. Everything is trained the way we want it to. Fold the paper, fold the paper down like this, and use the diagonals that we made for our smaller X's to start to collapse the model down like this. This isn't really easy, doing origami like this. A lot of people like step by step. If they're new to origami or they like more simple models, this isn't really a simple model. The idea is pretty simple, but I guess it just depends on what you're used to. But hopefully you can follow along with what I'm doing. Some people say this would be easy, some people say this is pretty challenging. What's really challenging is trying to do it in an instructional video. So there you go. But I lied. Well, that reminds me, I got a couple of questions. I asked people to ask me a few questions so I could do some Q&A while I'm showing you how to collapse this model. We'll get to those in a minute. I'll talk a little bit more about what's coming up in Season 3. This video you're watching is the last episode of Season 2 and the end of the first year of me posting video tutorials of my original models online. So this is, you want to reach under the model and make sure that this is all folded down, and there's going to be two folded edges that meet behind this. Make sure you pinch this and hold this together and start working each of those together, and then fold these down like this. Make sure these are supposed to be pretty close to one another, these folded edges running down the seam. And do the same thing on the top. I'll show you what the paper looks like from behind here in a moment. So hold all of this together. And remember that each one of these columns is the exact same space, so try and get the folded edges to meet along the creases for the other rows and columns. And really spend your time and make sure that these are nice and clean. So there we are. It's folded almost exactly how it was a moment ago, except we've used the paper to make these nice little flaps here. And here's what it looks like behind the model. It's like a little pinhole and seams running out to all the edges there. Okay, so that's pretty much pattern grafting. We grafted on two little spikes, and we kind of changed the shape of the paper. It's no longer square. if we just kind of consider this our starting point, you know, I don't know. Maybe you understand what I'm saying. Anyway, it's important to do all that first, rather than try to add these elements on after we do the larger pieces. Okay, so now we want to attack the larger flaps. So we've got those smaller ones down. Start with the top ones here, but also kind of lead down into the bottom ones. And it's pretty easy. You're just folding through all the layers, and when you come to a pleat that's along here, you're just gonna bunch everything up. So start here and begin to box pleat this down, and then come down here to the bottom and find where this cross is, and start to box pleat there. Okay, let me show you what I mean on this one. I gotta refold all of this real quick. Okay, so we start to pleat this, and then whenever it comes to that layer, we just go through all the layers. Okay, so we're just using those diagonals to fold through all of this, all the way down to the edge. And it gets a little bunched up right here, but just, you know, pay attention and fold through all the layers, the diagonals through that as well. And that's what it looks like, that portion of it. And you just continue this everywhere else in the model. Okay, so I guess I'll show you guys what I'm doing here, and hopefully you can follow along with it. If you have any questions, please hit me up on my Facebook page. Just search for Rickman Origami Facebook, and you can leave me messages there if you have any questions about how to fold my models. Maybe if you need me to be a little more clear about a step here or there. I'd love to help out if you want to fold this. Okay, so back to the Q&A. I got a question of like where do I get my inspiration from for the models I like to design? I sort of look at what's been done and where origami's been. There are a lot of animal designs. Bugs were very popular for a while. And I try to find new untapped resources for ideas. The animal kingdom is very popular. I kind of stay away from that unless it's something unique that hasn't been done a whole lot, like a flying squirrel. I do a lot of research when I come up with an idea to see what else is out there that's been done already. And where my ideas come from, I guess, is just the sort of things that I'm into. I like fantasy creatures, video game characters. I take a look at the world around me. I sort of think in origami sometimes. When I'm walking around looking at stuff, I think, oh, that's an interesting shape, or that's a cool mythical animal, or that's whatever. And sort of work out in my head what crease pattern for said object would look like. And over time, I get this compilation of ideas in my head, things that I'd like to eventually try or store in my head, so when I come across a new technique for creating a detail, slowly working on those in my head. And since I only have a limited amount of time to spend designing origami, you know, I have a job and a family, only certain ones from that sort of ocean of ideas make it to the surface and eventually become my published models. And I don't really know how to explain how or in what way certain models get brought to the surface before others. I guess it's just a general enthusiasm for the idea. If I like an idea more, the odds that I'm going to eventually design it are greater. So this is what we have so far. I've just done the outside edges, and the inside edges, the inside parts look like it might be a little bit tricky, but if you just open this partially and start to work at it, it's going to cooperate with you. You just have to be gentle and patient with this part up top here. These want to hold the model together, and you need to spread it apart. But as you get further down, the model collapses more, so it gets easier. Just start at the top and don't try to spread it too far down where those posts are. And begin to fold down your diagonals, separating out all the layers in between, even though they want to spring back together. So yeah, I grew up in the 80s. A lot of my ideas, especially for the more mythical sort of fantasy-based origamis that I do, are based off of things that I thought were cool when I was a kid. I'll show you guys a model I plan on doing in about a year now as a tutorial. Let me stutter a little bit. As a tutorial, that's based off of a video game I played when I was a kid. Give you guys a little idea of where I'm headed. Okay, so that wasn't too difficult. You know, it doesn't have to be super precise yet. Just kind of get things moving in the right direction and then turn it. This used to be the bottom of our model. Now we're going to come down here and start to fill in this section, running between these points. I think that pretty much answers the question. You know, there's this big sea of ideas in my head, and it's just sort of based off of how enthusiastic I am about the idea. If I'm not excited about an idea, I don't want to do it, and it doesn't happen. I have got lots of ideas in my head that are they just seem too conventional or whatever, that just never end up getting done, even though part of me thinks it'd be fun to try. I don't really have a good example off the top of my head of that, but we'll see. And then also, you know, okay, so I do 6 episodes of this in 6 months, and that's what I call a season. Next season, season 3, is going to be things that I asked my fans on my Facebook page to give me suggestions for models. And I wanted to challenge myself and kind of get away from the stuff that I wanted to get outside of my box, my comfort zone with ideas, and see if that didn't help me grow as a designer by asking people to throw me out ideas. Now, granted, I have the final say in whether or not that model gets published, whether I design it or not, but I think it's a happy medium. Okay, so you can see here, all of our pre-creasing is starting to become collapsed, and it takes a while, and it's pain in the tuchus, but here we are. We've got most of this down. You kind of fold these in the same way you did the top ones, fold the sides in, fold these together like this. To get this to lie down. Be real careful with everything. some layers have to be folded together around where those smaller points are. All right, here we go. So this is starting to come together here. This is the end of the second step, the collapse. And when I say second step, I'm referring to what's known as a three-step model. You have your pre-creasing, collapse, and then finally the shaping. So what we're going to get to next is our shaping. This might even be considered a five-step model since there's pattern grafting. This one's more like pre-crease, collapse, shape. But maybe that's taking a simple idea and making it necessarily more challenging. I don't know. Okay, so here. It's all collapsed down now. Everything that we've pre-creased is here. Those should be sort of in there. Now what we want to do is start to shape. So how we positioned these, we want to position these also. So kind of find where this ultimately ends and pinch there, and then find the center of this, and then behind the model you want to move like 2 columns of paper out to the side there, and then hold everything together in the back like that, and push this down. And it kind of gives you that. And also on the other side, find this, push all this together, take 2 out to the side there. And this can be done very carefully. The model will look better. And so here we are. Here. Now do the same thing on the other side. We're going to find it's a little more tricky because there's less paper at the end, but make 2 layers come out there, hold everything together, and then push this down, creating diagonal flaps under there. This model's a little crazy, I know. I can fold it well because I invented it. It's mine. I understand how it all works. Hopefully it'll make sense to you. I was a little bit worried about this one not really making a lot of sense, but hopefully it does. Okay, so you see there's like a border around everything here and some really complicated pleating happening, but you get it. This is what it looks like from the bottom. Everything's kind of falling into those spaces. We've got a lot of pleats bunching up in order to form these layers here, which obviously become the the bottom part of the anchor that's meant to dig into the earth and sea floor, whatnot, and hold it there. Okay, so we've got that. What we need to do next is then pleat the back here. So this is going to be a mountain fold where this goes into the side of the model. And then, wait. Ignore that. Okay, so we go like this end one is valley fold, and then the next one is a mountain fold, just to pleat that back. So, in other words, valley, mountain, and have that rest in the back here. Okay, so it's all kind of starting to come together like that. Let me try to push all this together, kind of give you an idea of where it's at right now. So you should be able to do this with it. Fold all these layers down together like that. It looks like this kind of from the front. There's a whole bunch of mess right here that'll get straightened out in a minute. And then obviously these need to be kind of more like this. So what we do here is move 2 of these layers, run along the side here. You take these, kind of open up the model a little bit, and move either both at the same time or one at a time. I'll show you one at a time. 1 and 2 back. Yep. And do the same thing on the other side. Take 2 layers and push those back like that. Okay. Kind of resituate everything here. Make sure it's all lying flat. Push it around. But then that kind of offsets all this stuff up here. So what we're going to do up here is push flaps forward. So push those forward until you get to this one. It's running into this first pleat here. And you want to kind of open the paper up from the back and pull here until this folded edge, it's going to just pull it gently. If it starts to resist you, kind of unfold it from the back and work at it here. Otherwise it will rip and look untidy. There we go. So this is what I mean. Fold that up and then fold diagonal to get that out of the way. That was kind of crazy. I'll show you again on the other side. So, okay, here's the other side. Here's what everything is looking like on the top there. You're going to push this one back. You're going to take this one and push it back. You can't push the next one forward because it's sort of inside this pleat. So you sort of open things up from the back just to make sure it doesn't want to rip the paper on you. And you pull here. If it starts to give you trouble, open the back and kind of, there we go. And then pinch this stuff up together. There we are. Okay. So readjust everything, make it lie flat-ish. It's not. The model's not going to lie flat anymore. It's too 3D. There's too many layers. Oh my goodness. And just kind of push everything together so it looks like this here now. So there we go. This is starting to look familiar to what we're trying to create. Okay, we've got our center posts and then 2 flaps here. And this doesn't make a lot of sense, right? It's supposed to be like an eyelet. Let's do that next. So this, fold these out to the sides here. And there's a little pre-folding that goes on here. You're going to narrow each of these. So fold through all the layers, each of these, as far down to the base of this as you can, the folded edge to the center of these flaps. Just pre-crease these. It doesn't have to be super precise. You don't have to get out the electron microscope to do this or anything. Just make some pre-creases through all of this so it'll be easier to fold in half later once we make it into a loop. I'm not aware of this being done in any other model using 2 long flaps and inserting one into the other to make sort of an eyelet or a loop. So let's call it Rickman's loop. Yeah, I'm just joshing. There we go. Just pre-fold that. And then now either side, it doesn't really matter which, just take one of the flaps, open up the layers slightly like this, reach in, and then fold the edge down along the next crease, widen it out, and fold down like that. Okay, and then fold it back over. So this allows this one to go into this, like that, right? Except it would be difficult to push it all the way through like that. So what we do is push this one all the way down and kind of start to make this one into a loop already. I'm going to wrap one over the other just to show you where we want to end up. And you might want to do this with yours too, just to get an idea of where we're going with it. So curl this one down, like about like that, and then wrap this one around. We want this edge, it depends on how small your paper is, how thick it is. We want it to either be on the very, very bottom one. If you're using a large piece of paper, you can get there, like so it loops around all the way, or the next one, or if it's really thick, that one. But the smaller you can get that, the better. Obviously, it's just this is the way the model was designed, like that. So if you can get it all the way down to where this edge is hidden by coming together, where this flap meets the rest of the model, that would be ideal. But for printer paper of this size, we're going to have to go one space back from that. So just kind of open these up and like get this started working underneath there, then bring this down, fold it under to hold it all into place, and then come back here, push it all in, and then get, I don't know where the other flap went, bring this other flap back out here. This one, the back one is easier, so I do it last. You should too, because you can really just open that all the way up. It's not connected to anything in the back. And, well, it's being difficult. This part seems difficult. It might go pretty easy for you though, but, oh, jeez, there we go. Okay, but you get what I'm saying. You're supposed to wrap that around the front there. It's good to take a shaping tool. A pencil works real well, and just make sure that all of these layers are lying flat. There's a lot of layers bunched up here, so it's kind of crazy. But you can get all this to lie real flat. This is a part of the model that you really want to slow down on. And you can see where I'm going with that. Let's make it a loop. And when everything is in place, it looks pretty nice. And the reason we did the pre-creasing before is, of course, we're going to narrow this. So each side of this is 2 spaces wide. We're going to narrow each one of these sides by half and push the paper under. Start to gradually roll this under so that the end width is 1 space. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you can see what I'm talking about here. We've rolled the paper under all the way around like that, just so it locks it in place and it doesn't come undone. You can hang it from your windshield in your car. All right, unless you live in a state that doesn't allow you to do that. I'm not aware of one, but I don't want to be liable for anybody getting into an accident. So always behave the rules of the road. Yeah. Here is generally what I mean. Just roll the paper under so that it locks everything in place until it looks nice. And continue to use your shaping tool to... Okay, this one isn't going to look very pretty, but whatever, I don't care. I'm just showing you how to do this. The next step, I want to show you this bottom part. So this is the spike in the bottom. this comes to a point, right? So just from the very bottom, fold through all these stinking layers, grip everything like this, and then fold through all those layers from the very bottom point up into there. See? So we went from here to there. And then fold everything else back up under the model. That. And take this and hold it diagonally, like yeah. And then poke everything down like that. There. Very nice. See? Nice and pointy. Everything's all bunched up back there. Rah, rah, rah. Okay. These, you can either try to open it up and really, whatever. Just fold them in half like this. So this is the back of the model. You're folding them like that. And then take this, hold it, and make like a diamond shape at the end. It's not completely accurate to how an anchor looks, but it's an origami anchor, so just go with it, man. And then you use shaping to angle these up. If I was going to use CMC glue or anything like that on this model, this is where I would put it. Unless you're using the foil paper, in that case, it holds its shape pretty well. And if not, you know, you can just go back and fold it kind of to taste, however you want to fold those up. And the second question that I got is from oh, do you ever fold other people's models, or do you just fold your own stuff? Oh, heck yeah, I fold other people's models. I think it's really arrogant for any designer to say that they don't. Nod, wink. Sorry if that offends you, whatever. You have to fold other people's stuff, or you had to have at some point. I get it if that's your profession and you want to tell the world that you don't fold other people's models, whatever. Anyhow, that can be a sidebar later. We can talk about that. So yes, I fold other people's models. Here's a couple of books that I read of other people's stuff. Jun Maekawa, awesome. Origami Worldwide. It was this. Montreal kicks ass. We got Lang, Insects, the Bible. This is how I learned to fold origami. Advanced Origami. LaFosse, awesome designers here. Roman Diaz. You know, this is just a sample of my library. Some of my more favorite books that I've actually folded through the whole way, and reference material I go to when I'm looking for an idea for something. So, if you look at some of the earlier pictures on my Facebook page, that's what my site used to be. It was just pictures of stuff of other artists I had folded. We're going to thin this down. You don't have to. You could leave the model like this if you wanted to, but what we're going to do is take this flap and fold it to the center crease that's running through the handlebar. And carefully, when you fold this part up, you don't want to rip the paper here, but you make sort of a swivel fold that goes down to about there, so that this folded edge now runs parallel to the model. Do the same thing over here. This is all a bit tricky, and if you don't feel like doing this part, I don't blame you. It doesn't add an incredible amount to the model. It's just that the handlebar, the crossbar, is usually proportionally a little bit thinner on a real anchor. Yeah. So, kind of an interesting fact. This model, originally I was trying to design a key, but it ended up at some point or another looking like an anchor, and that kind of goes along with my real job, because you know, I'm not really a professionally paid origami artist. I can't pay the bills yet. I have a day job. and it kind of correlates to what I do in the real world. So I just went with it. It's a fun idea. And then you want to do obviously the same thing in the back, more or less. This is a little bit different here. You've got to kind of fold this first layer down, start to push this down first, and then get this rolling along here, and then that kind of locks down. If you fold this point down, it locks things in place there. This bottom one is probably the easiest because it actually box hinges over fairly easily, and then just smushes into the side there. So just thin all this down so that the folded edges of this crossbar are running parallel to the model when it's upright. And this is about the end of where we're at here. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching. If you haven't already checked out, like I said, I have about 12 other models that I've designed this year. I have no intention of stopping, so every month look out for a new model from Rickman Origami. Check out my Facebook page, subscribe here, shoot me ideas. This is what we've got here that we've been working on. Work on the shaping, get this going here. And this is what it should eventually end up looking like here. The front and the back. I've got a Flickr account. I post like crease patterns of my models and stuff like that on there. I post on the Origami forum sometimes. So continue to support my stuff here. This is a sneak preview I was telling you guys about of a model I'm planning on diagramming and doing a tutorial for, maybe season 4. Might be some video game characters. Haven't really decided yet, but this is definitely going to be in there. This is Ridley from the Metroid canon. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. It's been very fun this year putting together video tutorials for you, and here's to another year. Cheers, everybody. Bye for now.